guys are watching NBA Now here live on Chat Sports. I'm your host, Harris Rubenstein. Go ahead and follow me on Twitter at SportsDean. I'll be covering everything surrounding the Anthony Davis trade rumors as they come. As well, please subscribe to us here at Chat Sports. We're in the race to get to the 100,000 subscriber mark. We're really close. We just broke 80,000 a couple weeks ago. We want to get to that 100,000 mark by my birthday, which is June 15th. You guys got 5 months to get us to 100,000 subscribers. That's the easiest challenge you're going to get in 2019. Just hit that red subscribe button and you guys can get the best sports content anywhere on YouTube. All right, we've talked a lot about Anthony Davis. We've talked a lot about the Lakers as well. Let's now broaden things a little bit and talk about the NBA trade deadline as a whole. Let's talk about a couple sellers that we could see this year. I know a lot of people are talking about the different buyers that we could see at the deadline. Let's talk about the sellers. Let's start with the Pelicans. Now, we did just get a little bit of, not breaking news by any means, but a little bit of good news. According to Scott Kushner, who's the Pelicans and NBA columnist for the New Orleans Advocate, says, quote, Alvin Gentry said he spoke to Anthony Davis at length today and said he plans to play out the season. So no sitting out for Anthony Davis, no Jimmy Butler crap or anything. Anthony Davis will play out the season for the Pelicans. But now with the trade request, you have to wonder, will the Pelicans start to sell off their best players? Injuries have really derailed their season, whether it's an injury to Elfrid Payton, an injury to Nikola Mirotic. Obviously, the injury to Anthony Davis put them pretty far behind. They're 22-28 on the season, not really what their hopes were coming into this year. You also have to wonder if Coach Alvin Gentry is going to survive the year. So here are a couple players that we could see the Pelicans move on from at the deadline. Obviously, Anthony Davis is included, obviously, because just asked for a trade. Nikola Mirotic is another guy they could end up moving on from. He's on a one-year contract, could be a great expiring deal for any team that, still hunting for the playoffs or needs some shooting either in their starting lineup or off the bench. He's been quite good recently for the Pelicans, had a really good season and a half for them. He could be a really nice option. And then Solomon Hill, just a good guy out in the wing if you're looking for a guy on a cheaper end of the contract scheme to bring him in and help you with some wing shooting for the playoffs. Cam Polk asks, can the Bucks trade for Anthony Davis? They can. I just don't think they have the assets to trade for him. I mean, realistically, what would a trade be for the Bucks? I mean, Eric Bledsoe would have to be in the trade. Thon Maker would have to be in the trade. Malcolm Brogdon would most likely have to be in the trade. At least one first-round pick would definitely have to be in it. I mean, it could work. I just don't know off the top of my head if the money would work. And I also don't know how would a NBA team work with Giannis and Anthony Davis on the court at the same time. If I'm the Bucks, I want Giannis to be the guy I give the big money to and then just surround him with shooters forever and ever. Chris Middleton is the perfect guy to put next to AD. I think they could make something work. I just don't know if it's something that's going to end up making sense. Chan Gundam says, this is a super chat, by the way. Chan Gundam, thank you for your super chat today. Pascal Siakam, Valanciunas, OG, and Van Vliet plus 2 firsts for Anthony Davis. A, wow, holy crap, that's a massive trade. B, I don't actually think that would work from the Pelican side of things. I think that's too much money for them to pick up. That's a really good trade for New Orleans, just in terms of their return. I mean, you get 2 really nice young players in OG and Siakam, along with a nice backup point guard in Van Vliet. I don't think the Raptors actually offer that. If you're the Raptors, you don't know if Kawhi is going to stay in the first place. If you think Kawhi is going to stay, you can make that trade. But that's a lot to give up for Anthony Davis, who's already said that he wants to go to a team that he can win championships on. If the Raptors give up that much, I think it ruins their championship chances because their depth is one of their best qualities. That's a little bit expensive. I don't think the Raptors actually give up that much for a guy that might not end up staying in Toronto. I mean, the whole reason he's making this move is because he wants to play for a big market team. I love Toronto. It's a beautiful city. It is not a big market NBA team. So I just don't think Anthony Davis would sign an extension in New Orleans. Let's go back to our sellers. Let's talk about the Orlando Magic. Have a bunch of great pieces to sell off. They have a really good young core with Mo Bamba and Eric Gordon. Jonathan Isaac's a nice player as well. They just need to start thinning out the roster, and the more picks, the better for the Orlando Magic at this point. They started off the season well. They really highlighted a lot of their good talent, but they've fallen off recently. They are now 20-30 sitting at 11th in the Eastern Conference right now. Couple players that we could see the Magic end up moving on from. I've talked about Nikola Vucevic a lot already. We've already said that we could end up trading two of the only three Nikolas in the NBA, Nikola Vucevic and Nikola Mirotic. But along with Vucevic, I think the Magic could move on from Evan Fournier as well as Terrence Ross, two shooting guards who the Magic just don't really need. I think Terrence Ross is the more likely one to get traded versus Fournier. His contract is pretty big, and the Magic have been kind of resistant to trade him in the past, but I think Vucevic is gone. There's no reason for the Magic to keep him. I know in public they've been saying that they want to keep him and sign him to an extension, but if you already have Aaron Gordon, you already have Mo Bamba, and you already have Jonathan Isaac, what are you going to do with Nikola Vucevic? He's a free agent at the end of the season. I think they're going to trade him. They could actually get a pretty good penny for him this year. The Magic just need picks. They have a good young core. They have a couple nice pieces. They don't need Nikola Vucevic. Plus, he's an all-star, so we can end up bringing back a first-round pick. Let's keep going on sellers. Let's talk about the Atlanta Hawks. It is time to sell off some vets and go for that #1 overall pick. Time to tank for Zion, baby. This team just isn't quite bad enough. They're not. They're 15-33, which sounds bad until you look at the rest of the Eastern Conference and you're like, oh no, the Knicks are worse. The Cavs are also worse. We have a better record than 3 of the teams in the Eastern Conference. And right now we are looking at a #4, #5 pick again. I think the Hawks are going to tank, and I think they're going to ship out a couple of their veterans in order to make it work. Take a quick look at the Eastern Conference standings here before we list you off a couple players. Bucks, Raptors, Pacers, 76ers, and Celtics bring up the top 5. Our bubble teams, the Nets, the Heat, the Hornets, the Pistons, and the Wizards. And then the bottom half of the Eastern Conference, the Magic, the Hawks, the Bulls, the Knicks, and the Cavaliers. The Hawks just have to get worse. They're currently, 5 wins ahead of the Knicks and the Cavs. They just got to start losing more games. So I will point this out that the Cavs have already played a bunch more games than the Hawks so far this year. Here are a couple players the Hawks could trade at the deadline. Jeremy Lin is definitely an option. I think he's already out. Kent Bazemore as well. Once he returns from injury, he will certainly be shopped. And Dwayne Dedmon's a guy that they could use to maybe flip to a bigger contract. Maybe they, go to the Grizzlies and say, hey, we'll flip you Dwayne Dedmon for Chandler Parsons' odd contract if you give us a first-round pick in the future or something. They could use that Dedmon contract in order to get them a bigger deal to get a first-round pick along with it. So the Hawks have a lot of different options for the deadline this year. Don't be surprised if they end up making a move. All right, let's move on with the Hawks here and move into our last team that can end up selling at the deadline. And, of course, it's the Memphis Grizzlies. Talked about him on our last show. One of Mike Conley or Marc Gasol, they are most certainly going to be out, and the Grizzlies need to gain as much draft capital as possible. Shedding long-term contracts is their #1 priority right now, whether that's getting rid of Gasol, the 3 years left on Conley's deal, however the hell they expect to get a Parsons deal, I'm not sure. But the Memphis Grizzlies need to shed those long-term contracts, so I'm not really sure if the Grizzlies are going to be able to get off all 3 of them, but they need to get off as many as possible. So let's take a look at a couple players the Grizzlies could end up moving on from. I've mentioned them in the past, but I'm also going to put Chandler Parsons on that list. I am not sure how the Grizzlies expect to get rid of his contract. I don't. I simply have no idea. They're one of the worst contracts in the NBA really ever given out. They have 3 years and $30 million every single year left on the Conley deal, and then the Marc Gasol contract as well. They have to move off of as well. He's a player option for next year. The Grizzlies could get a really impressive package for really Conley or Gasol, and then package Parsons with a pick to get his cap space gotten rid of for the future. And one more time for the people at home, head to Bet the Aside. Go to chatsports.com/bet. Use that promo code NBA120 for a 120% deposit bonus. Keep it with us this week here on Chat Sports. We'll have plenty of Super Bowl content as well as NBA content as we continue to lead you guys up to the 2019 NBA trade deadline. Please subscribe to us here at Chat Sports. We're in the race to get to the 100,000 subscriber mark. We're really close. We just broke 80,000 a couple weeks ago. We want to get to that 100,000 mark.